Right, so when the team was released, it was going to look something like that. I think Sky Sports actually had it like that as well. Turned out not to be that way. However, in FM realms, that sort of formation there for City looked a bit like this. Now you can see it there. Pretty standard 4-2-3-1. We know Pep doesn't play that way. But that's what it looked like before the match kicked off. In fact, when I started watching the match, it was pretty clear that that's the way they were shaping up, with Kyle Walker on the right hand side, basically playing like a winger. Phil Foden tucked right inside, wandering everywhere, fluid as hell. Then we go try and recreate that in Football Manager, and it started to look a little bit like this. It's basically an asymmetrical with Walker doing all the work down the right hand side. I went with Trequartista for Phil Foden, Shadow Striker for Julian Alvarez. So we tried it in pre-season. You can see Cancelo in the wing-back role down there, and he's way high, basically playing like a winger, and it started to work. Kept it for the Community Shield. We lost against Arsenal on penalties, but as you look at the match stats, we were the better team. Now you will notice that it says version 1 at the top because there is a version 2, and this is when City delve into high possession football. As the game against Newcastle went on, the more possession was getting to City. They ended up looking like this, and that number 25 is Akanji, who spent most of the time in midfield, occasionally breaking ahead of the double pivot of 16 and 8, Rodri and Kovacic. Then we naturally attempt that in Football Manager as well. It looks a little bit like that. The big change is that the fullback role tucks into a wide centre-back, and the Akanji role changes to a libero on attack. That's the closest thing I can get to him stepping forward and spending time in midfield. It's not ideal, but in Football Manager, it's about the best we can offer. So we played this way in the Premier League against Tottenham, and it worked really well. You can see Walker down there. He's basically turned into the main outlet for the team, laying on that goal for Grealish. And in the second half, yet again, you can see Alvarez in the shadow striker, Kovacic, and there's the wing-back Walker, lays it across, and there's your shadow striker. The match as a whole was completely dominant. It was 2-1 thanks to a late reply from Tottenham, and I want to focus on that goal in a minute, but look at the match stats. 29 shots, 10 on target, dominating possession. Now, here's the big negative of that formation, and in fact, version 1. You can see here we've got our defenders lined up. We've got Ake in the Gvardiol role, Akanji and Ruben Dias. Now, up here is Kyle Walker, and he's way behind the inside forward on that side of Heung-min Son, and that's going to be the problem. If you get a manager in the opposition dugout who's knowledgeable enough, he will find that gap and exploit you, because Walker, remember, has got to cover back here and up there. He's doing a hell of a lot of work. So he's going to get caught out of possession if you lose the ball. And as you can see here, he doesn't quite get back in time, and Son gets a goal back. So that for me is the big problem with this formation, because Walker's covering both forward and attack, and it's the same thing in version 1. He's got all that work to do. Now remember, I was trying to replicate the way City played against Newcastle, but for you to make it that little bit more solid perhaps in FM, you could possibly swap Kovacic and Rodri around. So Rodri's over here to cover Walker a bit more. You could also ask Dias to stay that little bit wider. Those are your options, but I wanted to keep it as close to the way City played as possible. So the start in that setup, start dominating possession, it comes to that setup. I will note that I did add some player instructions to help the team all along the way, such as the left back role with cross less often, dribble less, shoot less and sit narrow. Basically we're asking him to be a really wide centre back. I'll go through the player instructions shortly, but if you want the tactics, they're going to be in the Manager's Seat Discord.